Hey there, welcome back to the Creator Podcast. In today's episode, we're sitting down with Peter Lindgren. We had a phenomenal conversation. It was probably one of my favorites. All of the questions that I had prepared for the interview, we didn't cover them at all because we just talked about the creative process and everything that comes with that. Wonderful conversation, a lot of wisdom in this podcast, so I hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, here's Peter. Sweet, man. Well, we could just jump straight into it. Yeah. Peter, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate you being on the podcast. I would say good morning, but it's afternoon for you. It's morning for me, so good afternoon.
It's always weird how time zones work, you know?
Oh, my gosh. Time zones are so weird to me. So really, thank you, though, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, real quick, for people who are watching who know you a little bit, or maybe don't know you at all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a YouTuber, I guess. You know, people are going to say, well, you make films, but I don't really consider myself a filmmaker. I consider myself a YouTuber that likes to make films. So I don't know if that is the definition that I go from here on out, but it's like I just have fun with my YouTube channel, love making stuff with my cameras, and have been doing that for full time the last 4 years, I think it is. And
cool.
On that point, it is just having fun.
At what point? Why are you calling yourself a YouTuber who wants to make films instead of like considering yourself a filmmaker? Like, you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this aspect a whole lot, especially lately. And I know that, you know, all YouTubers make films, hence they are filmmakers. But I want to see the opposite way instead, because I am a dude who makes films and then I upload those to YouTube. But what I think is most fun is just making something that is a video. It doesn't necessarily has to be a film. I'm not like making the most beautiful films. Sometimes I'm making short films, but most of the time I'm just recording myself making short vlogs or having a fun idea of shooting a commercial for a steakhouse or whatever it might be. But I don't really consider myself being a filmmaker. I'm more so a YouTuber that likes to make films.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, because there's definitely like, I think some people can kind of be like hung up on whether you call yourself a filmmaker or a YouTuber, and there's this like whole discussion and whatnot. So I wanted to kind of pick your brain on that a little bit. That's interesting. Before we begin, I honestly want to start off with like probably one of the hardest hitting questions you could ever imagine. And
coming in hot.
How was it driving the Ram TRX?
Oh, do you really have to bring that up? Come on. It's like it's a dream come true. I mean, freaking hell, that's an amazing car, but it is gas guzzling. It's like you can legit see the oil levels in the Arabic countries like going it's like that. But it was fun.
That's cool. I saw you doing that video, and I was like, I'm a big car guy, so I was like really excited to see you like get behind the wheel on that and like film it. I was like, oh, that is so cool.
Thank you.
It's probably not as fast as your current car though, right?
Oh, you mean the Joris?
Yeah.
It's like 62 horsepower. It's like, but it's an automatic at least.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. That's cool. So how did that happen? How did that come about?
That was actually kind of a funny story, because it comes down to something that I usually say with YouTube. You know, it's a library. You know, you never know whose eyeballs that is going to hit your video, right? So I think it's now 3 years ago where me and my friend, we got this idea of making a video of a American muscle car. Right? And we reached out to a bunch of different brands. I think I had around like 250, 300,000 subs. So my channel was still big, but none of the brands replied. So we reached out to a local brand and asked them like, hey, you got this nice Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat. Can we borrow this to make sort of like a cool video? And they're like, and then I'm like, you're going to be able to use the video for commercial purposes and all that, just as long as we can make it for YouTube. And they're like, okay, let's do it. And then we made that video, you know, went out 2 nights in Gothenburg, shot the video, and had a lot of fun. recorded the behind the scenes, sat down, edited everything, and then posted it onto YouTube. No intentions of anything else. Fast forward 2.5 years, and the official importer of Dodge and Ram cars reached out in an email like, "Hey, Peter, we just saw your video."
Really?
And I'm like, just saw my video? Like, which video are they talking about?
It was 2 years ago. Yeah, you're like, which one?
Yeah, it's like, and they're like, "Yeah, we just saw this video about the Dodge Challenger." And I'm like, "Oh, like that's 2.5 years ago."
That one.
And they're like, "Yeah, we would like for you to have the opportunity to make a video, but on a truck. And we can offer you a TRX, and you can drive it for 3 months and then just make a video on that." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you."
They said, "Hey, we saw your video on the Hellcat, so we decided to let you use a Hellcat, but the catch is it's a pickup truck."
Exactly. It's the same engine. It's like, take this big thing. And the weird part was that, the deal was going back and forth because they didn't really know, like, what the sort of like, the contract should include. And I was like, okay, so it's like, is this going to happen? Because I was planning first to shoot in the fall of 2022, and then fast forward a little bit, and we entered winter, and I'm like, okay, but this, like, I'm out. If it comes, It comes. And then 2 days before Christmas, it's like, "Hey, it's on a truck on its way up. It's arriving tomorrow." And I'm like, okay. And then the driver of the truck just called me and like, "Hey, are you the one that's gonna have a TRX?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, can you meet me somewhere?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can meet you in the middle of Gothenburg." And then I go there, and he comes out, and he's like, "Hi, are you the dude?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he just hands me the keys, and that's it. I'm like, this
no way.
This car is like, here in Sweden, it's $180,000 car. And I'm like,
I believe it.
Yes. Here I stand with it. Like, no paperwork, no nothing. It's like, just take it and go. No.
Oh my gosh. And so you had the car for, you said 3 months?
Yeah, I did. It was amazing. It was super fun to drive. It is like, my foot became made out of lead. I can tell you that.
Just everywhere you were going, you were just driving super fast.
Yeah, and also, like, as soon as there was the tunnel, like, sport mode.
Oh, yeah. That is too cool. Yeah, like I said, when I was super hyped when I saw that video, because obviously I'm a car guy, and so it was kind of like two worlds colliding.
Yeah.
Of like me liking cars and then cameras, and I was like, "Oh, this is so good!" I was super excited to watch that video, and so it was cool because at the same time you were doing was it a review on the 4D?
Yeah, the 4D
DJI
Flex.
camera.
The new like
so
extension cord.
Yeah, my buddy calls it the chicken cam.
Yeah, it is
Because it just bobs up and down like a chicken camera. So. Dude, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask that question, get that out of the way, because I so badly wanted to hear your take on it and whatnot. And
it's such a fun car.
That's cool that they let you have it for like 3 months to drive. Was it weird, like going back to your car afterwards?
I mean, both yes and no, because in a way, when those 3 months were over, I felt like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
It was a little bit like driving that car. You knew that. If I were to own that car, I would only take it on special occasions. I wouldn't have it as a daily driver. So in a way, it was very sad because it's a fun car, but then
it's cool.
In a different way, it was like, oh, nice. Now I'm back to this like Yaris. Here we go. Come on, I can push you up the hill.
Yeah, you can save gas too.
Yeah, for sure.
So, that's amazing, man. Well, I want to talk a little bit about your creative journey too.
Yeah.
So going back a little bit, from childhood, I was curious, you're in the creative industry now.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in a creative home at all?
No, not at all.
Oh, interesting. So what point, so maybe like dissecting that a little bit, at what point did you start dabbling in camera work?
It was not actually that long ago. I think you say.
We could say far long ago.
Far long ago. In a galaxy far, far away. I think it was when I turned 20 26 or 27.
Okay.
So it was like the entire reason for it was because I wanted to take photos of my apparel brand that I was creating for sort of like the gym industry. And then I reached out to one friend of mine who I knew had a camera, and I asked him like, "Hey, can I borrow your camera? Just take some product photos." And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I borrowed that, and then I started to take some photos. Bought some flashes, cheap ones on the camera store, and tried to learn as much as I could about lighting in general, and just trying to figure out like what is rim lights and what is this. And I didn't know what aperture was, or I didn't know what ISO was. I was like, just like, how do I get a blurry background now?
Yeah.
So it's like, I remember I bought a lens. I think it was the 1835. I think that was the Sigma like 2.8 for APS-C cameras. And I remember buying that lens, and then I didn't really know what, how compression worked and what kind of things that I needed in order to make it look, like it was blurred background and have nice separation. So at first I was like, well, like I need to move so close to get a nice separation. And it was weird. And then I bought the bigger lens. I think it's like 50 to 75. I don't know what it was, but it was a hefty lens. And I didn't even have a camera because I was borrowing my friend's camera. So I bought the lenses, but I didn't have a camera. So I remember when I sort of like got the interest to make videos, I realized that I can't use this camera because it was Nikon D500 or D300. And it was not a video-centric camera.
No.
So it's like, now I gotta sell all these lenses because I can't use them.
That's super interesting. It's cool to me that you started getting into cameras as more of a task to get something done for yourself, for your apparel brand. At what point was it that you were like, man, I actually kind of like this, or I kind of enjoy this? I would assume there was some point where that started clicking where you're like, wow, this is really fun.
Yeah, I think I thought it was very fun to, play around with lights. Because come from the bodybuilding background, it's a lot of, lighting is everything, because you can make yourself look huge when you have the right downwards light, when you have the right angle and the right pump and all that stuff. So playing around with lights definitely made it fun to use a camera. Yeah. But it was also when I realized that, I was watching Peter and Casey, and then sort of like thought that the video aspect was very interesting. And I started to, try to cut together some simple vlogs in Swedish, of the bodybuilding thing. And then I realized that I thought the video aspect was way more fun than the photo aspect of things. And that is sort of where I bought, I think it was 2017 or 2016, where I bought my first Sony A6400 or A6300, I think even.
Okay.
And from that point on, I've been a Sony shooter, and just practice as much as I could.
That's super cool. It's neat to know that, like, with bodybuilding, there was a sense of like an understanding of how to shape light.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In order to like frame your subject.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that you already had that visual reference and understanding of how important light is.
Oh yeah,
which is something that I think a lot of people figure out later on in their like photography or filmmaking.
Yeah, I think so too, because like when it comes to bodybuilding, when you want to show your best self, you got to make sure that the lighting is on point. And the same thing goes with video making. If you want to set the scene perfectly, you got to make sure that the lighting is on point.
In today's fast-paced world, content creation has become an essential tool for connecting with audiences and sharing ideas. Whether you're a filmmaker, a live streamer, or a social media influencer, the quality of your content can make all the difference in capturing and engaging with your audience. That's where Hollyland Technology comes in. As a leading innovator with wireless video transmission, monitors, microphones, and intercom systems, Hollyland offers reliable solutions to capture high-quality content. Whether you're working on a film set, broadcasting live events, or creating content for social media, Hollyland has the tools you need to elevate your production value. Their cutting-edge technology allows you to focus on capturing the perfect content without worrying about technical issues. If you're looking for high-quality wireless solutions, check out Hollyland's product range. Visit their website at hollyland.com to learn more about their products and find the perfect solution for your needs. Make sure to use the code GEAR15 at checkout for an extra 15% off. And thank you to Hollyland for sponsoring this video. Lighting is probably one of the most important things when it comes to video.
I agree.
That's super interesting. I am obviously not a bodybuilder, so
no, I'm not anymore. So it's like I'm on the same page as you.
At what point did you decide to stop doing bodybuilding?
I reached a point in the beginning or towards the middle of 2017. I had been doing bodybuilding for approximately 13 or 14 years, and I was like, my max was 130 kilos, and my arms was like, for those of you that are doing inches and pounds,
Whatever.
I can't convert, so you're gonna have to.
We
Google
can't convert
this.
it. Sorry, that's not what this podcast is.
My arms were 53 centimeters, like in diameter, so they were
Holy
huge,
smokes.
and I was huge.
Yeah.
But then I reached a point and thought to myself, like, my beginner goal when I started my bodybuilding journey was to look somewhat like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like that was my ambition. And for me personally, I thought that I reached that goal way before 2017. But then I started thinking to myself, for what purpose? What is the purpose that I'm doing this now? Is it because I just want to look good? I want to have bigger muscles? Like, what is the purpose of having this body right now? Because I'm not doing anything with it. I'm not competing. I'm not trying to do any sort of modeling. I'm just big. And at that point, it was like, you know what? I think I am going to stop. It's like, I think I'm just going to invest my time in something else. And towards the end of 2017, I also wanted to make sure that I spent a lot of time on self-development. So in the beginning of 2018, I said to myself that I am going to be a way better person than I was yesterday, and try to have that sort of like going every single day. Because when it comes to bodybuilding, you're a loner, right? It's not a team sport. It's about you. It's about me building the best body that I can possibly do. And I don't care about what you say. Like, it's all about me going to the gym, doing this. But from that point on, I sort of like skipped the bodybuilding, invested more time into practicing with the camera, because I wanted to have something that I could sort of like transfer the time to. And that became where I wanted to put the time into. So like videography, editing, trying to become as good as I possibly could be at that, at the same time as I tried to become a better person every single day.
I think also too, like having the understanding and realization that you wanted to better yourself as a human is huge. I mean, that's like,
I think it's so incredibly important for anyone that is listening right now. It's like the choices that we are faced with every day is like we control the outcome of things, right? So I had like a kid here that has dropped out of school, and he was here yesterday visiting the studio. I didn't know him beforehand, but he was like, I'm 18 years old and I don't like school, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, you gotta see it like this. You can't affect anything that has been. You can only affect the future. And he's like, it's like mind blown. And I'm like, that's how it is. Just try to make something better today than it was yesterday.
That's so huge. You actually just released your latest video that I just watched. At the time of recording, this might be an older video, but by this point, but you talked about, kind of going off of what you just said, you had talked about, you know, this mind shift change that you had while working,
Yeah.
and something shifted in your brain to want to be better.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, from that moment that you shifted, you had that like change, how have you seen things change in your life?
Everything. I'd say that, you know, when I started working on DHL, that was sort of like the job that I got after, you know, I think I got that job in 2016 or 2017, somewhere around there. And then when I started there, I was like, I mean, I'm going to be the best freaking worker ever, right? I'm going to be the hardest worker in the room, as The Rock says. But when I did the shift in 2018, I also tried to become more positive. I tried to become, you know, having this positive outlook on things and tried to make sure that I did as much as I possibly could. And from that point on, everything has changed. Like, I've met much more people, and I've had the opportunity to sort of like narrow down the people that I actually want to spend time with, and people that are around me, they are lifting me up instead of trying to push me down. And you know, as long as I'm being positive and straight up with people, then I've noticed that it's just going the right direction with things.
Yeah, that's huge. What would you say to somebody who is maybe like in that limbo where they're trying to make that mind shift? What are some things that maybe you did or that you could tell somebody to practice in order to make that shift start to happen?
I think something that I did recently was kind of a funny thing, because you know how it is when you're living together with someone. I'm going to take my fiance as an example for this. She if she's somewhat listening to this, I'm going to say sorry, but it's like something that I hate. What, like, when she's doing it is that whenever you have like a yogurt box here in Sweden, we have like carton boxes, right? And when those are empty, she pours in some water and pours it out in the sink and then puts it in the sink, right? Upside down, so that like the water runs out every single time. And I have told her so many times, like, can't you just throw this in the bin? But then it's like, it takes me like 10 seconds to just grab it and throw it, right? So I started thinking, like, why am I even bringing this up as a problem? I am creating the problem, right? She's not creating the problem because she's emptying the box. She's doing half the work. I can do the rest, right? And the same thing goes for when I wanted to, you know, I want to postpone putting the dishwasher or the dishes into the dishwasher, taking out the dishes. It's like one of those things when you get home and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that tomorrow. But then I started timing myself. And I realized that taking out the dishwasher and putting it back in takes no more than 7 minutes in total.
It's funny you say that. I've actually done the same exact thing. I hate doing the dishes. So I'll come home and I've lived in this repetition of like avoiding it. And maybe a lot of people do this in life, whether it's dishes or something else, but there's something about like doing it now and just like getting it done.
Yes.
That's huge. And I think a lot,
And such a simple thing as well.
it's so simple, but it's so valuable. And you end up saving time in the long run when you like can just say, I'm just going to get it done now. I'm just going to send that email. I'm just going to get this done. I'm going to do those dishes.
And there's another thing that I want to, and there's another thing that I want to bring up now that you say it. I had a friend tell me, like, when we were driving in my car, I think that this was approximately 2.5, 3 years ago. And he's like, dude, there's so much crap in here. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't have the time. And he's like, do you ever stop to fill up your car for gas? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, never walk empty-handed. Never walk empty-handed, he say. And I'm like, bah, that's true. It's like, I take the step out of the car, I grab the nozzle and fill up my car. So why can't I just like grab the crap and just throw it in the bin at the gas station? Why don't I do that every single time? So I'm trying to sort of like implement that as well.
That's super cool. It's super important to be able to just do it now. I promise you. You can it'll save you time. And then you're not going to feel the stress too. There's like some level of like, especially if your car's messy, you might feel like a little bit anxious or whatever. How have you equated that kind of mindset into your creative work with getting things done?
I think when it comes to getting things done, I need to be sort of like focused on what it is that I want to achieve. Because for me, it's more about what is this going to generate rather than the outcome right now. So I know that if I make 10 YouTube videos, those are probably going to be watched for a year or two from now. And I think when you focus on getting at least something done rather than nothing done, that is where you start to make the consistency part come alive, It's, as I said, it's better to go to the gym once every week than 0 times every week. It's better to go to the gyms once, twice a week than 0 times. As long as you do it sometime, like it's better than no time at all, right?
I've had this conversation with friends that, like in the creative world, it's so much better for you to actually just make the thing that you're wanting to make without waiting for it to be absolutely perfect. Because if you wait for it to be absolutely perfect, you'll never actually make it. Like it just won't actually happen.
And then, I mean, like I have made so many videos that I have tried to polish. I have tried to sort of like, okay, I'm going to make the best freaking video that I possibly can. And then I start recording and then I'm not satisfied. So I record again and then I'm not satisfied. And then I record another thing. And then I start piecing together the edit. And then it's like, oh, eventually you're just going to, make yourself fall over because you're not going to be able to make it. So for me, one of the things that I like to do is to have sort of like a set thing that I'm going to shoot and not try to drag it out for too long. Because in that case, I know that, okay, when I get back to the studio after 2 days of shooting, I have this footage. So this is what I got to work with. So this is something that I need to craft. This is what I need to make look good, right?
Yeah. That's so important. Like being able to, you can wear yourself out when you don't put a time limit on what you're creating. And then you end up having, or at least for me, I end up having this like negative attitude towards the thing that I was excited to make.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I don't even want to make this anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think hearing you say like putting a time limit on something is absolutely huge, because then you can kind of get into the right mental space of understanding I'm only going to do this for X amount of hours or X amount of days. And then I'm going to go to the next chapter of the process that I need to.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's also, it's going to put more pressure on you in a way to actually perform when you are there to do the thing that you set out to do.
What has been your approach making YouTube videos with like from the moment you come up with an idea to the minute you hit publish? Like what's your flow of work that you're doing?
That varies so much, to be honest. For example, the video we talked about previously, I recorded that this morning and then edited that today and posted it today. So it's like, it's just straight up record, hit publish, that's it. And sometimes I get the idea and then I work on that idea for a year. But then it turns out to be sort of like a 2-minute video. So I think for me, what I get is usually the idea of something that I want to create. And then as soon as I have that idea, I'm also the most motivated, right? So when I'm the most motivated, I want to make sure that I execute. Because if I don't execute when I'm the most motivated, it's going to become less and less motivating to do that idea. And then I get a new idea and then we end up with the same place, right? So for me, it's a lot about getting the idea and then trying to refine that and make it simple for me to make, So I have this saying for myself is like how, what, when, why. So if I can ask myself those questions on the video or the idea that I want to make, then I usually get the answers of how I can make the entire thing happen as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I think this is just going so well with the conversation that we're having right now of a lot of, for me, and I think for a lot of creatives, they can resonate with what you're saying. When you come up with an idea, that is when you're most motivated
Yeah.
to make the thing that you just popped up in your brain. And sometimes it can be hard too, because maybe in that moment you don't have the time to create
Yeah.
what you're wanting to create. How have you worked through that? Whether that's writing it down or just mentally blocking that off. How have you like had an idea and maybe at the moment you can't actually create what you're wanting to? How do you work through that process?
I usually try to have sort of like a notes document where I write down the very basis of the idea. And I'm not talking about outlining the entire idea, because I think if I outline the idea, then I create a video that I don't really want to create in a few weeks from now. So what I do is just have the title of the video or the premise of the idea. So I write down maybe it's sort of like, Ronin 40 on an RC car, right? And then I have that idea and I want to execute that idea, but I don't know how. So I start asking myself when I get to like the point of, okay, now I have the time to do something. So, and then I revisit that idea. I'm like, okay, how do we do this? What do I need? And when can I shoot this? Like, start to ask myself all those questions because I have the idea written down, but I don't have the outline. So then it sort of like brings me back into the mood of creating the video in a sense.
It's funny the battle that we as like creators can have of when we put structure to things.
Yeah.
it almost like limits our creative ability and it just like slaps it right down. And so it's nice to know that you just kind of like leave it open-ended with just like a title or a premise for your brain to kind of spark up again when you have to go back to that note. And you probably maybe like, do you come up with even new ideas to add on to that possibly?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I think one of the most important things especially for people that are sort of like starting out, is that you should never finalize an idea entirely, because then it becomes a project, right? It's not an idea anymore. It's a project that you need to make. And we all know when someone hands you a project and say like, hey, we want you to make this. Then you're like, no, I don't want to, because I want to make this, So in my brain, it sort of like works in the sense of, hey, Peter, here's a cool idea. And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't do this, But if someone says like, hey, we want you to do this entire project, I'm like, yeah. So don't really, I don't think that people should finalize the idea until they are in the headspace of actually making sure that they can record the video, they can go through the entire video, because the longer you drag out the process, the less motivation you're going to have.
Like I said earlier, you just kind of get burnt out on it before you even start it.
Yeah.
And that's huge. When you started your YouTube channel, how did you approach making videos, and what was your goal with starting your YouTube channel?
Well, my entire goal with starting the channel was actually not to become a YouTuber. It was to become better at using a camera and doing video and editing. That was the entire premise. And then in the beginning, I did everything in Swedish. So I recorded a couple of videos in Swedish, and then I thought to myself, well, being on the self-development track, I know that talking English is a good thing as well. So why not do that once I'm making the videos, so that I can become better at actually talking a different language? And from that point on, I started making videos in English and became better at using editing programs and softwares and understanding the basics of a camera. But that was the entire start of it.
That's super cool that was like a way for you to like just kind of learn and develop. And there was like there probably wasn't a lot of I guess I could ask this. Was there a lot of pressure for you at that point then, if you were just trying to improve your?
No, there was absolutely zero pressure, because I just went into it. Watching Peter and Casey, of course, motivated me to make the videos, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to become a YouTuber and now I'm going to make money. It was more like, cool, I can make videos, I can practice, I can record stuff every day and see if I can do the same thing as they can do. It was like, I did not expect to be at this point where I am today when I started. Heck no.
Like looking back now, what were some of the things that you were learning as you were making these new videos for yourself? You're starting your YouTube channel, you're wanting to learn and grow. What was something that you took away from it the most that you were like, oh, okay, I think I'm starting to get the hang of this?
Yeah, I mean, like if you just look at it from a YouTube perspective, something that I learned, grew into learning, I guess, is the searchability of videos. That's huge. Like one of the things that I understood when I was trying to make the channel grow a bit more. But I think that the biggest takeaway that I learned when it came to actually recording videos on I guess you can say weekly basis, was that everyone can record a video, but in order for someone to find that video interesting, you need to edit the video in an interesting way. And I recently was up with a friend of mine who has built like a log cabin entirely by hand. And I started to think to myself, it's kind of the same thing. If you take a profession, it doesn't matter what kind of profession, because anyone can do what he did, but to make it look as good and to make it perfect and to make it actually, livable, you got to be able to do the fine adjustments. Everyone can chop down a tree, but it's not a guarantee that the tree is going to fall in the right place, or it's not going to you're not going to be able to bark it off easily, but everyone can chop down a tree. So it's like the entire process afterwards. That was what I learned was so incredibly important.
And you had to figure out probably your voice.
Oh yeah, for
in
sure.
the space and your taste on it. And because I think in like a YouTube space, certain markets on YouTube can be so saturated.
Yeah.
And so everybody can do video editing. Everybody can do like beautiful B-roll at this point.
Yeah.
How have you continued to find your personality and your like differentiating thing on your YouTube channel?
Well, I in my personal opinion, I think that one of the things that drew me the most to Casey and Peter was the journey and the progress, I guess. It was not that they made the best videos or the behind the scenes. It was more about, how they went from just being consistent and doing the videos and trying to just keep on the upload to becoming something that they can live from. I think that was kind of the coolest things. And for me, it's more about the process of creating things rather than, what I create. And I think it's kind of funny when a lot of people say like, oh, but you should keep doing the B-rolls, And then I'm like, yeah, but I've already done that. There's no challenge in making a B-roll for me. That's done,
The discussion always ends up this way on the podcast whenever I'm talking to somebody, but it's interesting how curiosity is what keeps you going.
Yeah,
and
100%.
You can keep making videos because you might be bored of making a B-roll video. You've already done it all. And now you're hoping to maybe explore something else.
Exactly.
And like I noticed recently, you started getting into like FPV, a completely different thing than what you had done before.
Yeah.
And it seems like to me that you've just been willing to embrace that curiosity and just continue to grow in that.
Yeah, I feel like what I want other people to feel when they watch my videos is to just have a good time with Peter. I don't want you to feel that when you go to my videos, Peter is the one to learn from whenever he uploads.
Yeah.
I want people to, be able to follow along on my FPV journey or, joining me when I test out the new Ronin 4D or something like that. I want people to be in on, hanging with a friend rather than just learning when they watch my videos. And I think that for me is the most important thing. And that was also one of the reasons why I started my vlog channel, to be able to reach an entirely different audience with that so that they can hang out with me and see what I do on a regular basis. Just if you're sitting on the crapper on your job and then you just want to have a 6-minute break, then just joining Peter, Yeah,
that's cool. I did want to kind of talk to you about this a little bit because I think it was like, 2 years ago that you started your vlog channel?
Yeah.
And it gave us like a whole different look inside your life. And you were discussing other things that were outside of doing, the camera review type videos or the camera talks. And I think that's super interesting. And you kind of answered it already, but how are you approaching both channels now? From your vlog channel, when do you find a good time to do vlogging videos, and then when do you find a good time to do your
Well,
camera videos?
I started I've been going back and forth with this for I don't know how long, but I felt like, I think it was last year, or no, I think it was in October of 2021. I think it was where when I had my blood clot, and I felt like, you know what, I'm just going to document everything that I can, because I got into this super hyper drive of just, am I going to die? I want to document everything. But that kind of cemented the fact that I want to have two separate things, because I have, 500,000 subscribers that has started following me mainly because my camera stuff, mainly because I talk about camera, I teach about cameras, and I show people new tech. So I don't want to force them to watch my vlog videos. I don't want to force them to watch my life if they don't want to. And I felt like that was where I separated sort of like the main channel from the vlog channel, because what you can do is that you can make a 10-minute video that is titled the new Sony a7S III, and then you make it a vlog, and then you talk about the a7S III for 1 minute. I'm not a huge fan of that myself, so so that is why I felt like, I'm just gonna make every single video on my vlog channel is clickbait, like dramatic freaking clickbait titles, and everything on my main channel is more like, something that I think I want to share with a wider audience that is within the niche of cameras.
How has it felt since starting that vlog channel? How being able to separate the two, you could probably have a better headspace and understanding of like, I want to do this and this. How have you enjoyed making the vlog channel?
Oh, 100%. I still find the vlog channel sort of a little bit more joyful, to make the videos for, mainly because I find the videos to be so rough around the edges. There's not, like, people are asking me like, how long does it take to edit? Literally any kind of vlog that I post on that channel is like 1 to 1.5 hour of edits. It's like throw everything on the timeline, like, and then up. I don't care about it as long as I have some sort of documentation of the day or the week that has been passing by.
I've seen more and more YouTubers now start like a vlog channel as a way to be able to share their personal life, but it not be so polished.
Yeah.
And it's actually been really fun to watch. Like I've been watching your vlog channel, and then you have like Potato Jet who makes his vlog channel, and it's been really neat to be able to see just two sides of somebody's life, a more like personal view at it, that can feel maybe, dare I say, a little bit more authentic. Maybe is that the right wording? You think?
Absolutely.
You can be more vulnerable, and on your vlog channel, you have been vulnerable.
Yeah.
How have you seen that play out on the internet? Like, how was that? Were you afraid to be able to be vulnerable and share that online, or how have you worked through that process?
No, not really. I think that one of the fun things that I always think about when it comes to making videos online and having that discussion of, the vlog channel, and for example, people saying like, well, how can you share your life in such a detailed way? Like, aren't you afraid that someone is going to say something? And I'm like, no, like that. What I'm showing you is a select thing that I have personally selected for you to see, but also it has already happened. So like it's already in the past, right? So for me, I've already lived that. I've experienced that. I've edited that. I've filmed that. I'm just showing you what I have experienced. So I think that, yeah, exactly. And I've approved it, and I've had, so many different instances before I've actually posted it. So for me, it's more like, I would like this to be something that I can look back on in 10 years from now. And it doesn't matter if it's just me going to the gym. I find it interesting that I can create something from nothing, you know?
Yeah, in a way, it can become like a photo album of your life
Yeah,
where you're able to look back and remember like the little moments or some funny times or even some hard times, because it's really important to look back on life and have an understanding of where you came from and what you've done.
absolutely. So I think
And like
I
you
think it's
said,
nice.
yeah, and like you said, the main reason that you were watching like Peter and Casey was because you were able to see the progress,
Yeah,
and people connect with growth. People connect with, progress, because we're all just humans trying to get better at life and trying to
for sure.
learn and develop. So I think that's really huge. You mentioned Peter and Casey being your inspiration from the beginning.
Yeah.
Now that you're in the YouTube space, you've been doing it for a long time. Where do you find your current inspiration, and what motivates you to keep going?
Honestly, as of I would say for the last 5 months, I haven't been watching any YouTube videos, any YouTubers, like nothing. It might sound strange, but I got to this point where I felt like, I don't want anyone's way of editing to affect me. I don't want any sort of input in my head. I want everything that I create to be my own source of inspiration, in a way. And the only thing that I do watch is sort of like maybe someone that I know, Teppo. I can watch one of his videos if it's a personal video, or Peter's if it's a personal video. But in general, I watch absolutely nothing. And the inspiration that I find is to constantly, again, try to become better at what I do. If I have the opportunity to choose between a Sony FX6 and a Sony ZV-1 to create a cool video with, I'm going to choose the ZV-1 because it's the biggest challenge, you know?
That's amazing, like stepping away from watching YouTube content, because it's so easy to be like influenced by what you're taking in. And it's been neat that you've stepped away in a sense, to be able to keep the creativity going and the challenges to like motivate yourself to keep creating.
Yeah, and it's also a way of trying to create more rather than consume, because it's very easy in today's society to fall into the consummation trap. You just consume content on your phone, you just consume content on your screen, and you don't really take a step back and think that, okay, I'm sitting here spending, I don't know, 30 minutes watching someone else's video. And again, I'm super grateful for people watching my videos, but if I want to have the output that I have, and if I want to have the time in between family time and work and everything else that comes with running a business to still become better, then I need to take that step back and not consume.
It comes back to that mind shift that we talked about earlier of, actually going out and doing,
Yeah.
and actually just, if you're wanting to create something, create it now. We can spend, just get it done. Just start doing. And how have you felt since that time that you've stepped away from consuming YouTube, months later? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It feels, in the beginning, I would say I felt a lot like FOMO, fear of missing out. What am I missing? Like, what is everyone doing? And should I make a video on this new Apple product? Should I make a video on this? Should I make a video on the new camera, on the lens? And it was very strange in the beginning because I saw everyone else, uploading videos, but then I'm like, I didn't watch them. But I feel like the more I take a step back, the more I can make the videos that actually I enjoy the most and that my
Yeah.
audience will enjoy the most.
I've kind of had this thought that when you can step away from consuming things, you actually end up being able to have a more authentic taste on your own things that you're creating.
Yeah.
Because we can be so easily influenced by the latest like 5 Apple product videos that you're motivated to make it, and then it starts to naturally look like those videos. But when you can take a step back and take time away from social media, from YouTube, you're able to have your personality shine through what you're trying to make. And it sounds like that's what you've been able to do since stepping away from like watching YouTube for a little bit.
Yeah, and also like I have a lot of projects that I'm working on in the background that has required a lot of time. One of those is we're gonna start building a house in August, so that's gonna be huge. I'm gonna raise the garage myself. That's gonna be the entire new studio, and that's gonna be an entire project for the vlog channel, for example. So I know that I'm sort of like putting all the pieces down so that I can just jump back into what I feel is gonna be fun, motivating, and engaging for myself to dive into.
I love that. I'm excited to see those vlogs too. That'll be really cool to see, like making those videos. That'll be amazing. What moving forward, like with YouTube, it sounds like you've got something planned and set up for your vlog channel, obviously with the house. What are some of your goals for your main YouTube channel here in the next few years? Like what are some hopes and dreams that you would like to see happen?
I mean, I think everyone wants to have a consistent amount of views on their videos. They want to have a consistent output. I would love to get an editor, a local editor. I haven't found anyone yet, but I would love to have a local editor that is better than me, that we can just edit super sick videos together and make the entire business of my YouTube channel grow. But I think what I want to do the most is just create videos that I can stand behind and keep working with the big brands that I'm currently working with and make fun videos together with them. And then just have this as my job for as long as I possibly can, because I enjoy it a whole lot.
When you can enjoy what you do, there's longevity in that.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's huge. It can become very task oriented, and it can start to feel a little bit mundane.
Yeah, and I think one of the weirdest things with having a YouTube channel or running a YouTube channel as a business is that, I had this discussion with someone that came to my lecture in Stockholm a week back, but he said like you've been a little bit down in some of your latest videos, and I'm like, yeah. The reason for it is because I have no one to talk to. The people that I got to talk to is you, like the viewer of my videos. Because if you are working at a corporation and you feel like you're not getting developed with your work, you go to your boss, and your boss says like, hey, can we do something for you? Can we switch up the work routine? Can we make something different? Can we get you another position that you can try out? There's no one that does that when you're a YouTuber.
Right.
There's no one that says what you should do or what you shouldn't do. Like, it's all up to me. So for me, I see YouTube as sort of like a development platform as well, because there's so many things that goes into making the videos and maintaining the channel and being the brand. So I think even though some videos might be a little bit of a slump, with that comes also growth.
Like, speaking of that, like YouTube can feel like a really lonely place. And I actually wanted to ask you this because, while most camera YouTubers are in the States or they're in Canada, how have you worked through that being in Sweden? And how has that felt? Because I feel like at least some people here in the States, like me and other creators, we can like link up and meet up with other YouTubers and have conversations. How has that worked out for you while you're in Sweden?
Well, in the beginning, when my channel took off, it was very strange because I felt very isolated, not only because it was COVID and all that, but it felt like I was, doing my own thing, and then everyone else was doing their thing, but I was still a part of that in a weird way, because somehow I ended up, skidding in on the banana shell, hey, it's like, I'm the Swedish dude.
I'm here.
Yeah. But I think at the beginning, it was a very strange feeling. But now, I've been talking to Peter, I've been talking to Teppo, I've been talking to a bunch like Gerald, Chris. There's so many people that I have contact with now that makes it not feel as lonely. But in the beginning, it was strange. It was a weird thing.
Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, that's definitely like really hard, and especially like I said, you're all the way over in Sweden,
Yeah,
which makes it even more difficult.
across the Atlantic.
Well, hey, I want to end with one last question for you. I appreciate your time. You've been like super. It's been amazing to talk with you and chat
Same
with
to
you,
you,
and
man.
there's so much wisdom. And literally all the questions that I have written down, we haven't even gone through them because I just have loved the conversation. So, but the one last question that I do want to ask is, over the years of YouTube as a creator, what is something that you've learned that you think would be valuable to share with somebody who's starting out?
Enjoy the process. Like the entire process. It's not about what you create. It's about the process of creating, right? So if you don't enjoy the process, then you're not going to enjoy the end result.
I think that's the best takeaway that you could give. I think that's huge, that people just need to enjoy what they're making, enjoy the process, understand that they can grow in that. So, Peter, thank you, man. I really appreciate you being on. It's been amazing.
Thank you for having me,
amazing
Josh.
chatting with you. Yeah. So, thanks for being here. And yeah, dude, appreciate it.
Thank you. It was an honor.